Hello, we're diving into Chapter 6 of Jane Eyre Summary and Analysis. Chapter 6 of Jane Eyre is a whirlwind of icy, cold mornings, cruel teachers, and deep introspection, all set against the dreary backdrop of Lowood School. Our girl Jane is adjusting to life in this harsh environment where the weather seems as unforgiving as the staff. The main focus of this chapter is Jane's growing awareness of her surroundings, particularly her observations of Helen Burns, a significant character whose quiet strength and acceptance of suffering stand in stark contrast to Jane's fiery spirit. Main idea chapter 6 explores endurance, especially through the character of Helen Burns, who embodies patience and submission in the face of injustice. Her philosophy of turning the other cheek and not letting external cruelty dampen her inner peace is a major theme that reverberates throughout. Jane, still young and defiant, can't quite grasp this level of forbearance, adding an interesting tension between these two characters. Supporting points and evidence. We see Helen being publicly humiliated and punished by Miss Scatcherd for minor infractions, like dirty nails, which is a small but telling example of the brutal discipline at Lowood. Despite Helen's intellectual prowess, she's answering every tough history question correctly. Miss Scatcherd focuses only on her physical imperfections. The harshness of this treatment highlights how the school prioritizes outward appearance and control over the student's inner talents or intellect. Key plot points. Jane starts her formal education at Lowood, feeling overwhelmed by the rigor and constant switching between tasks. Helen Burns is introduced as a central figure in this chapter. She is punished for things that seem inconsequential, like posture or cleanliness, despite her brilliance during lessons. The use of corporal punishment is vividly depicted when Miss Scatcherd whips Helen, but Helen's unflinching acceptance of the punishment creates an atmosphere of silent resistance. Jane and Helen have a heart-to-heart conversation by the fire, where Helen explains her philosophy of enduring suffering and returning good for evil. This conversation is emotionally charged, as Jane is baffled by Helen's patient acceptance of injustice. Significant characters. Helen Burns, the embodiment of quiet endurance and moral strength. Her ability to forgive and rise above cruelty marks her as a stark contrast to Jane. Helen's worldview, rooted in Christian forbearance, challenges Jane's more rebellious nature. Miss Scatcherd, the harsh teacher who continually criticizes and punishes Helen, representing the oppressive environment at Lowood. Concluding remarks or outcomes. By the end of the chapter, Jane is left contemplating Helen's words about forgiveness and endurance. Although Jane cannot fully understand Helen's perspective, it plants the seed for her future growth. The harshness of life at Lowood is tempered by these moments of quiet reflection and companionship between Jane and Helen. Most interesting aspect. What truly grabbed me about Chapter 6 is the deep emotional contrast between Jane's fiery resistance to authority and Helen's calm acceptance. I couldn't help but feel outraged on Helen's behalf when Miss Scatcherd punished her, but I was equally captivated by how Helen handled it with such grace. It's as if Bronte is telling us that there's more than one way to face adversity, and both paths, rebellion and endurance, have their own merits. This chapter made me reflect on the balance between standing up for oneself and choosing peace. In this chapter, Charlotte Bronte is delving into big themes like moral resilience, the nature of suffering, and how we respond to injustice. Through Helen Burns, she presents a powerful, albeit challenging message about forgiveness and inner strength, while through Jane, she shows the fiery human instinct to resist oppression. Bronte is clearly making a statement about the harsh realities of institutional life, but she also leaves room for hope through the strength of character shown by Helen. What really hooked me was the eerie, cold setting of Lowood, the frozen water pitchers, the biting wind creeping through the windows. It's the perfect backdrop for the emotional storm brewing inside Jane as she grapples with how to survive in this harsh new world. If you haven't read Jane Eyre, this chapter alone will make you feel like you're right there, shivering alongside Jane and Helen, both physically and emotionally. Join the conversation. Share your thoughts on how Jane's experiences resonate with you in the comments below. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe for more juicy book discussions, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on all things literary. Let's get lost in the world of Jane Eyre together.